Next, let's create a role for our project manager. We will give them access to everything except the ability to create a new job and except for the all permissions. Now we will exit the Manage Roles and Permissions screen and click the New Employee button. This is a typical Edit or Create window with a Save button in the menu bar and information about the item to be supplied. If you attempt to save the item without all required information being provided, an error message detailing which items need correcting will display. We will supply the username of Shop Guy and a display name. We will assign this user to the shop role and make him an hourly employee. We will leave all the personal information blank and leave the require employee to update record button checked. This will cause a home module action item to prompt the user to update his or her own personal information. In this way, employees are able to keep their contact and personal information up to date. Now we'll save that user and create another user for our project manager. I'm using Project Manager for the username, but typically you would use the user's first name. We'll fill out the required information and assign this user to the Project Manager role. Now, we will right-click on the user and set his or her password. You can see that when we set someone else's password, we aren't required to specify the existing one. Having created some users, let's log out of the system account and switch over to our Shop Guy account. Because this user is an hourly employee and is not already punched in, we are taken immediately to the time clock module. You can see that if I attempt to create something from the menu, I receive a prompt indicating that my role doesn't have the right to do that. Let's punch this user in for the day and then change over to our Project Manager user. Since this user is not hourly, he is taken to the Home module. The Home module exists as a list of items that the current user needs to investigate or take action regarding. Because I left the Require Employee to Update Record option checked when I created the user has an action item to update his or her record. We'll click that item, supply the information, then save, and the item will no longer need action. If you recall, the one and only thing we kept this role from being able to do was the ability to create a new job. If this user attempts something he or she isn't permitted to do, they are given the option to attempt to escalate and do it anyway. An escalation is a temporarily using the credentials of another user to do something you are not permitted to do. So, for example, if you wanted your employee to create a job, you could provide your credentials rather than force him or her to log out. You may use this drop-down to control the length of the escalation. You may allow the action for this one time only, for a specified period of time, or permanently add this permission to the user's role. Returning to the Employees module, notice that the hourly employee now shows up in green. An hourly employee who is on the clock will show up this way. If we go to the Time Clock module, you can see that the right side has a list of all hourly employees, plus the current user, whether hourly or not, and their coloring reflects whether they are punched in or not. This is the end of interface and user setup.